Good morning, San Francisco. Good afternoon, New York. Good evening, Berlin. And good evening, Tokyo. This is the Wikimedia Monthly Activities meeting for the month of May. I am James Hare, the Associate Product Manager on the Technical Engagement and Scoring Platform teams. Let's get started. In today's meeting, we will be sharing a movement update, including updates on structured data on Commons, including the first GLAM pilot projects, as well as some updates on the Wikidata Infobox on Commons, the Wikimedia 2030 status update, questions and discussions, and Wikilove. But first, our movement update. Some big headlines right now. We've petitioned the European Court of Human Rights to lift the block on Wikipedia in Turkey, which I understand is not something we do every day. So this is particularly big news. So big round of applause to our cross-departmental team that made this happen. And with Wikipedia in the classroom, a former student has become the teacher. This is very exciting. It shows that when we invest in our leaders, they in turn become leaders to other people. And so I think that is worth celebrating as well. And just as with our petition in Turkey, we've also requested the government of China to unblock us. I am seeing a pattern here. But again, thank you to the foundation for their work in making sure that billions of people around the world can actually read our website. And in case you didn't know, MediaWiki is the software that underpins Wikipedia. There was recently a conference about it in California dedicated to basically all the people throughout the world who use the MediaWiki software, and it is very inspiring. The Wikimedia Foundation published its 10th transparency report, and Wikimedia Argentina and the National University of La Plata partner to promote free knowledge. A round of applause for all these wonderful efforts. And coming up, we have the Wikimedia Poland conference. That will be just coming up in a week or so, I think. We have Wikimedia 2019 in Stockholm, and we also have the Wiki Convention Francophone in Brussels. And now let's take this over to Sandra, who will be talking about structured data on Commons.
Yes, hello everyone. Can everyone hear me well?
Yes.
I assume you do. Okay. So I'm going to give a very quick update. To be very clear, this is a work in progress update, so we don't really have a very finished product to show yet. But we want to update everyone listening to this broadcast about the current status of things. Emphasis will be on pilot projects that are running full force at this moment. GLAM pilot projects, collaboration projects with the cultural sector and with volunteers working on cultural projects. And actually 5 minutes of this slot will be given to Florence Devouard, user on there of, quite famous on our projects, I would say, who is going to talk about one specific GLAM pilot project that I'm quite proud of and very happy to present, the ISA tool, and you will hear about that in a few minutes. Next slide, please. But first, I'm going to give a quick update on structured data on Commons. For those who are not following the project very closely, in the past 2 years, and this year quite actively, a team at Wikimedia Foundation and Wikimedia Deutschland is working quite hard to add structured, multilingual, and machine-readable metadata to Commons from Wikidata, something that the communities have been asking for a quite long time. It's finally happening. And we're doing that to make Commons files easier to view, search, edit, organize, and reuse. Next slide, please. So for those people who are using Commons actively and who are uploading files there, you might have noticed already that you can do a few new things there at this moment. You can add multilingual file captions, you can translate file captions there, and you can add depict statements through the file pages themselves, through Upload Wizard, and if you are so inclined, through the API as well. Next slide, please. So if you look, for example, at this featured image showing a very beautiful lightning strike in a pine tree, I think. Next slide, please. And if you would go to its file page, as you see it there, you will see a new feature or a new aspect in the user interface that wasn't there before, a structured data tab. Next slide, please. brand new. And clicking on both parts of the tab, under file information, you can add the file captions and translate captions. Feel free to do so. And under structured data, you see that you can add all kinds of tags that are, in fact, things that are depicted in the image, depict statements that are actually concepts from Wikidata. So we are actually proactively integrating Wikidata into Commons at this moment. Next slide, please. You can also search already for them at this moment, still through a bit of a wieldy, I would say code-like kind of writing. But in next iterations, it will also become possible to search Commons multilingually in this way. Next slide, please. So just a quick overview of new features that are coming. So as I said, you will be able to search Commons multilingually. Other statements will be added. So you will also be able to say other things about files than just the things that they depict. You will be able to say who created them, other specific kind of data you want to add about them. Quite a few other things. And at this moment, the team is also preparing upload wizard for campaigns, Wiki Loves campaigns, for instance. Next slide, please. My own work, I work in the GLAM team at the foundation, is I mentor a set of GLAM pilot projects. So pilot projects with cultural content, both content partnerships, uploads from cultural institutions, but also community initiatives that are GLAM focused, and a few tools and prototypes. And next slide, please, for a quick overview of what kind of projects we're looking at. So in terms of content partnerships, we have at this moment in preparation quite a diverse set of potential uploads to Commons, both from an art museum, one related to decorative arts, one related to maps, which is a kind of special material, one from an encyclopedic museum. Actually, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York is going to run a pilot with us. And then we also have some community initiatives running. There will be an upload of digitized books in Punjabi to Commons, to be transcribed to Wikisource, to experiment with that interchange. And then, coming up also quite soon, we also have some tools that are being built on top of Wikimedia Commons that are about making Commons quite easy to contribute to by anyone. Next slide, please. This is just the credits. Next slide, please. And now, with all pleasure, I will give the words to Florence, because she will dive more deeply into one of the pilot projects, the ISA tool. Up to you, Florence.
Hello, everyone. So very happy to present you today the ISA tool. Can you show me next slide, please? All right, so ISA, it's a work under development. What it is meant to be is a tool to help Sandra and the team, the structured data team on Commons, to actually contribute content. That's what we call the micro contribution tool. It will work both on desktop and laptop and mobile, but the idea is really to make it mobile friendly. So next slide, please. I'd like to give a little bit of context of why we decided to work on that tool. Most of you already know that we have been running Wiki Loves Africa for now 5 years. We have a brand new poster that you will actually see at Wikimania in Sweden in a few months. And it's summarized the contribution we have overseen for 5 years now, with contribution from over 23 countries. Last year, we were discussing with Sandra at Wikimania the outcome of Wiki Loves Africa. And the conclusion was, one of the issues we noticed is that very few description and, of course, no structured data was available for all the over 48,000 images submitted during the last 5 years. So please, next slide. So with Sandra, we discussed a new tool that would be provided as part of the structured data on Commons. project. It was discussed last summer. We finalized the team during winter. So there are at the moment 2 people involved from Wiki in Africa Association. So that's Ayla and myself. There are 2 people involved as part of the Istropedia, that's Sean and Navino, that you already know from the Istropedia timeline. Eugene is the main developer working on that project. And of course, we have Sandra as our mentor. So the project has been under work for the past month or 2 months or so. We mostly work using Fabricator, so you can track some of our work over there, and the tools will be hosted on tools.vmf labs, of course. On the right-hand side, this is not the final tool because it's still a mock-up. So you have a mock-up from the main page. And on the next slide, please. Here, a mock-up for the campaign directory. So let me give you just a little bit of input of what we intend to do. The tool is meant to be useful for project leaders who are going to predefine set of images on commons and define campaigns. So for example, a campaign might be, let's improve the structured data about images from Wiki Loves Africa in Nigeria in 2016, for example. So the leader will define which categories on Wikimedia Commons will be proposed for improvement. And on the mobile tool, there will be the list of all campaigns available. Then this person will make a call to contributors in a very traditional type of way. You will have to be logged in to work on the project. And the leader will also have some, leaders and everyone actually will have full statistics available on desktop, and some of them will be available from download. Next slide, please. On this slide, you will see the typical campaign proposed by a project leader. It will be very simply defined with a beginning time, an ending time, the category of images to work on, and we will work only on 2 different types of structured data, which are depict and caption. Then the project leader will send invitation directly for this campaign. Next slide, please. And this is the typical screen of the input participation screen. It will display images from the category selected, one image after the other. It will also display some information directly collected from Wikimedia Commons, in particular the file, the description, the categories, so that it helps the user to actually look at the information and then choose to add depicts and caption information below. Then it will very simply be able to save his modification or cancel, go to next image. At the end of the campaign, information will be collected over time. Information will be collected over time with points, so that it's seen as a bit of a context. So for example, each contributors will have points attributed to the number of images he modified, and we will be able to see how many people contributed for each campaign, which were the biggest contributors, and how many images were improved during the campaign. So next slide, please. So I'd like to insist that the tool is under development at the moment. The ISA word means information structured acceleration, but it's also an African word from the Shishona language. It means put or place. The tool, we hope, will be available probably during summer. Will it be before Wikimania or after Wikimania? We don't know yet. It will depend. But what we know is that we will present the tool anyway at during Wikimania, and we will also hold a small campaign, which is currently called Metadata Week, but note that this is a working name. So the idea will be to make an open call during 1 or 2 weeks for people to improve information related to Wiki Loves Africa images. Next slide, please. And finally, how can you help? That's a very important element. So first, there is a page that has been open on Commons. That's Commons ISA tool. Please go there, put it in your watch list, and help us describe the tool, improve the help page, and set up the metadata weeks. Test the tool. It's probably too early on, but if you're interested in helping us to test the tool, please drop me a word. I will be following up with you. Participate to the metadata week, so probably during summer. There's also an issue related to translating the interface, because it's very important for us that this tool is available in as many languages as possible, and of course African languages as well. So there will be instructions published very soon to help on the translation of the interface. And finally, for this summer, we will do a basic first version of the tool, but of course there will be a bunch of improvements to bring. And we invite you to actually volunteer to help. There will be probably a collection of tasks proposed during Wikimedia Hackathon. So if you're interested, stay tuned, please. Get in touch with us and track us on Fabricator. Essentially, that's it. I thank you very much.
Great presentation, thank you. And for our next presentation, we will be learning about the Wikidata Infobox on Commons. So take it away, Mike.
Hi, so I'm a volunteer on the project. So I guess quite a few of you know me already. This has been a project I've been working on over the last year or so as a volunteer. So if you've gone to Wikimedia Commons recently, anytime in the last year or so, and had a look in a Commons category, you'll probably seen an Infobox in the category now. If you go to the next slide, please. It'll look something like this one on the right. So it gives you basically the back information about the category. So it's the name of the thing and an image of it, and kind of a summary of what the category is covering. The Infobox is completely multilingual, and it's a single Infobox that works for everything. So it's very easy to apply to Commons. You just have Wikidata Infobox in the Wikitext for every category, and that shows the Infobox. This is all information drawn from Wikidata, so it uses a whole load of properties to try to display the information in a nice way. If you go to the next slide. So as well as the basic information about it, it also shows a map. It's a multilingual map where that's possible, and also includes the authority control information and a whole bunch of useful links at the bottom to some of Magnus's useful tools, amongst others. It also does automatic categorization. So for categories about people, it will automatically add the birth and death date categories. And also awards everyone and things like that. It also embeds information into the category. So I think the multilingual search for categories at least should already work. So it pulls all of the labels from Wikidata and puts those into the source for the category. And I think those are picked up by the search engine. If you go to the next slide, please. So this has had very wide support from the Commons community, unlike other places where the Wikidata Infoboxes have been a bit more resistant to. I think part of the reason for that is this is completely multilingual, and that's not something you can easily do in plain Wikitext. There's a very active engagement to improving it. If you go to the talk page for the Infobox, then there's constantly new ideas being suggested and additions being made to the Infobox to adjust and to expand it. And one thing I should say is a particular thanks to user XS, who has written the Lua code that the the Infobox uses, although most of it's written in Wikitext. Next slide, please. One side effect is that interwiki links for Commons have dramatically improved. So the reason for that is the Infobox uses a common site link to find which Wikidata entry to show the information from. And there's been a huge project to add those site links, because mostly they didn't exist until 2018 or so. So we've added well over 1 million site links to Commons, and that has dual benefits of on the wikis, on the Wikipedias, you get the Commons site link a lot more often, and also on Commons you get links back to Wikipedia as well. And the Infobox also shows some of these links in the relevant language for the user. Next slide, please. So on the downsides, there's a lot of cleanup to do. So a lot of these site links didn't really, well, it wasn't very easy to check them. So there's some which are bad site links, need to be cleaned up. There's a property for Commons category as well on Wikidata, P373, and there's a lot of duplication with that and a lot of differences that need to be resolved. I think the main problem is that Wikidata needs expanding, so people need to add more information to it to show up in the info boxes. So for lesser known items and things on Commons, then you don't get much information in the info box, but hopefully the info box will encourage people to add it. The server load probably increased when, with the info box. I was quite glad that it didn't break Commons when it was being rolled out last year. But I think it probably does use a bit more CPU time nowadays. And one thing I'm not sure about is whether Google and other search engines actually access information and use that to index comments. It'd be quite nice if they did, to increase the visibility of Commons, particularly multilingually. Some of the info boxes do get quite as demonstrated on the right, but they are useful information, and they are tucked out of a way on the side of the category, so they shouldn't get in the way of browsing the information, browsing the photos in the category. Next slide, please. It also works on Wikipedias. The English Wikipedia is always an interesting challenge, but it's set up there and does work there at the moment. Although if you try to use it, someone will come along and undo the edit shortly afterwards. Could easily be installed on smaller wikis, those that want just a universal info box that works for every single topic in that language. It's a bit of a faff to install, but it's not too bad. If you know anyone that's interested in having it on their wiki, then I'd be interested in helping them set it up there. Another kind of side project is that common site links from the English Wikipedia are being synced up at the moment. So there's a lot of cleanup that can be done with that to sort out redirects, links to category redirects, and erroneous links and things like that. And also I'm hoping that we can switch the Commons links on Wikipedia, English Wikipedia, to be completely Wikidata at some point at the moment. Next slide, please. So some of the next steps, there's just over 2.275 million or so categories now have the info box. There's about 6 or 7 million categories on Commons, so there's quite a few more to go. So we're trying to add links to match those up. There's ongoing maintenance to improve the info box, as I just said, linking new categories. There's also a possibility of auto-creating new Wikidata entries for things that have Commons categories. Tried that with people earlier this year. There's some resistance so far with that idea. There's questions about whether Commons categories are notable or not. The subjects of all Commons categories are notable or not, which is ongoing discussion, I guess. Next slide, please. So some things that you can do to help. There's a Wikidata game that lets you link Commons categories to Wikidata and Wikipedia, which you can access through the distributor game, Modern Madness's tools game. Go and have a look at your favorite Commons category and see whether it has an info box. If it has a Wikipedia article and no info box, then you can add the site link in, and that will a bot will come along and automatically add the Wikidata info box to Commons then later on. One of the things I'm hoping for future steps is, so with structured data on Commons, there's all these depict statements being added to file pages. The info box could access that information as well and show relevant information multilingually again in the file pages. but at the moment there's no Lua access or bot access to the Depix information. So for developers, if that's something you might be interested in sorting out, it'd be nice to have in the future. And that's everything I've got. So thanks very much for listening.
And now we have our Wikimedia 2030 status update.
Thanks, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Next slide, please. So hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey Steinrau, and I'm the Community Relations Specialist for the Movement Strategy Core team. I'm really excited to talk to you today with my colleague Rupika Sharma, who is our strategy liaison for the Hindi community. And today our focus is going to be talking about community conversations, which is the area of movement strategy that I manage. And as everyone here knows, who's been involved in the strategy process so far, what we're trying to do with the 2030 movement strategy is to figure out who we are as a movement, who we want to be, and what our future should look like. Next slide, please. In order to do that, your voice matters in shaping our future, and it's really important that all sectors of the community have the opportunity and feel invited to make sure that their ideas and thoughts are considered in shaping our future. So there's a few different reasons why we're working so hard to give opportunities for community members from all over the world to have their voices heard. The first one is really around content. In order to have excellent recommendations about what our future should look like, we need a diverse array of perspectives so that these recommendations best represent our movement and what our shared future should be. The second reason is that community member voices, your voices, are essential to making sure that this process fits our values. We need to be diverse. We need to be inclusive, participatory, transparent, and bold. That's who we are as Wikimedians, and that needs to transfer into every aspect of what we do around our future. Next slide, please. The best way to do that is through the community conversations processes. So community conversations are the aspect of the movement strategy process that brings community perspectives into the work of our 9 thematic working groups. For community conversations, high level, we're operating with 2 broad phases. The first one is enrichment, and the second one is recommendations. Right now, in the enrichment phase, what we're focused on doing is soliciting and facilitating community input on all 9 of the thematic areas at whatever level of depth or whatever scoping questions from the scoping documents people are interested in, with the goal of shaping the ideas and general content of the working groups. Later in this year, when working groups release draft recommendations, community members will then be asked to give feedback on their proposed ideas. And there's a lot of different ways that you can get involved and participate. We're trying to reach people across all languages, all areas of volunteer interest, all geographies and levels of experience in Wikimedia. And we're also active on a large variety of channels. There's conversations that are happening on Wiki, on social media platforms, over conference calls, and also in person. Next slide, please. Our real on-the-ground leaders, the heroes of community conversations, are our strategy liaisons. There's 2 types of strategy liaisons that we work with. The first are volunteer strategy liaisons, and they represent each one of our affiliates, and their role is to facilitate discussions within affiliate groups and their members about movement strategy topics. The second group of strategy liaisons is a hired team of 7 contractors that lead community conversations across 7 different language groups. And there's a few different tasks that strategy liaisons do. The first one, which I've already talked about, is they're discussion facilitators within their community. But they're also ambassadors on behalf of the movement strategy process. They help our various communities and affiliates understand what movement strategy is about, why it's relevant to them, why their voices are so important in what we're doing, and to do a little bit of understanding and breakdown of the strategy topics to make it a little bit more accessible and offer people a meaningful on-ramp. The last thing that strategy liaisons do is they then take the feedback from the affiliates and from our broad language communities, and they feed them into the efforts of the working group so that there's that content bridge between the 2 areas of the strategy process. Next slide, please. I wanted to give you all a very quick overview of what our calendar looks like for community conversations. So the period of April, May, and June is what I referenced earlier as our period of engagement for open conversations across affiliates and communities. We're also shortly going to be coming out with a community survey in a number of languages that people can participate in. As we move into the summer, we're going to start shifting from broad and flexibly structured community conversations into strategy salons. Strategy salons are a small grant process that I manage that provides amounts between $500 and $1,500 to affiliates all over the world to host in-person conversations, usually over dinner or a meal, on one or two strategy topics with the members of their local community. These were done as part of the strategy process in 2017, and they're a really great opportunity for inclusion, relationship building, and topical deep dive within a community. Then as we move into September and October and we start to receive various forms of draft recommendations from the working groups, it will be opened back up again with strategy liaisons soliciting feedback on those recommendations. Next slide, please. For those of you wondering, so how does the feedback from the communities get into the working groups? Well, don't worry, there's a report on Meta about it. And what I mean by that is every single month, I put together a summary report of all of the discussion summaries sent to me by strategy liaisons, translated into English from a number of different languages. And they're sorted by thematic areas and compiled into a report online. These reports are sent to working groups so that they can read directly the feedback from the community. There are chances for them to ask feedback or to follow up in this report and close those feedback loops and let the community know sort of what they're thinking and how their ideas are being received. Next slide, please. The first report came out last month, and it was a March and April summary report. The report for May will be compiled in the next few days and posted online. If you haven't engaged much with movement strategy so far, I would really encourage you to take a quick glance at this. The value is it is a way of reviewing what people from your geographic or language or project-based community have been saying about movement strategy and about our future. You can check to make sure that your perspective is represented accurately, or to see what other ideas are not included that you would really like to see given voice to. Next slide, please. I'd like to turn things over to Rupika now to talk a little bit about how it's going being a strategy liaison. What are things like on a day-to-day basis facilitating movement strategy conversations? I know both from the team that I lead and for the volunteers that I work with, there's been a lot of learning curves in the way to best engage people and take a really inclusive approach to make sure that more experienced Wikimedians and newer Wikimedians have a chance to have their voices heard. So Rupika, take it away and talk to us about the Hindi community experience that you've been having.
Thank you, Kelsey. Hey everyone, this is Rupika Sharma. I'm Community Strategy Liaison from Hindi community. It's a pleasure to share our team's work with you all today. One of the most beautiful things about the strategy process is that it is collaborative work with the community, mapping how the future of Wikimedia movement will be by 2030. And in this collaborative process, it has been of utmost importance that we have diversity of different voices and players of community. So we have to create balance and equity in the strategy direction of our movement. Most of the active Hindi community is situated in India. It is one of the most emerging communities of Global South, and we have different actors who are active in different online platforms such as Wikipedia, Wikisource, Wiktionary, Wikidata, while others are more active in offline contributions, from organizing outreach events to GLAM partnerships. And in order to ensure we have diversity of different voices in the process, we have reached out to community on different channels. Some of the loud voices that are most active on Hindi Messenger group, WhatsApp group chat, and Village Pump of Hindi Wikimedia. And in one of the surveys, we found out that most of the members felt more safe and secure in giving feedback anonymously, where they had no fear of being attacked by some of the loud voices. And this was especially true for the underrepresented voices of female members, other caste and religious minorities that are not able to express openly and participate in decision-making process or open community conversations. We found out that this was a bigger issue in emerging communities like India, where cultural and religious aspects affect the contributions of the community members, and how important it is to bridge the gap for the minorities who are still the underrepresented part of movement in decision-making process and online space. And giving them a chance to express their voice is essential if we want to create a balance in the development of the strategic direction for our movement. And for ensuring we have diversity and inclusion of all voices, we have tried different approaches. We have special social media channel for the minorities, and we are taking special efforts to provide safe space to members who want to provide anonymous feedbacks with one-on-one interviews and anonymous surveys. And the result of these efforts has resulted in making community members feel appreciated and included. And many members from minorities have expressed their gratitude and delight in this inclusive approach by Foundation. And for us, it is a very special feeling to make this happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Rupika. Next slide, please. Just to wrap up on community conversations, we'd really love to hear from you. Do you like the approaches of how we're engaging with your community? Are there ways that we can do it better? Are there perspectives that you think are not being heard? Please feel free to reach out to me, myself, Tanvir, who also works with our working groups, and Rupika as one of our strategy liaisons. You can also find out contact information for strategy liaisons for our other languages and for our affiliates on our page on Meta. Next slide. Thank you so much.
And now we will open the floor to some questions and discussions. I believe James is monitoring IRC for questions.
Yeah, so there's been some discussion in IRC which about the best practices on Commons on how to link between gallery pages and category pages to Wikidata and vice versa. I don't know, Mike, if you're on and want to talk about that.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, so the problem is that Wikidata entries can only have one site link to a wiki, and Commons has both galleries and categories. It doesn't have too many galleries, but it still causes a problem when you want to site link the category and it's being blocked by a gallery. So there is a workaround for that you have to create a second Wikidata item and then use properties to link between the two, which the Infobox supports. It doesn't make any difference to that. But it's something that is a bit of a faff, and there isn't an obvious solution to it at the moment.
Thanks. Is there a kind of place where this is documented or best practice is being discussed so people can weigh in and suggest what they would like to see?
There's been discussions in various places, particularly Wikidata Notability, I think, but apart from starting a new conversation somewhere, there isn't really anywhere right now.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, any questions from people in the room? Last chance? Any more questions from IRC? All right, I guess we will proceed then. If you have ideas for this meeting, we would love to hear them. Go to Meta, go to that particular page on Meta and send us your ideas. We want to hear them. Thank you. And now it is time for WikiLove. Please feel free to submit WikiLove on IRC or line up at the mic here and share your WikiLove with the world.
Sandra, did you say you had some WikiLove?
I have so much WikiLove. All my WikiLove at the moment goes to the Wikimedia Commons community, and I'm feeling a bit tacky saying this, but when I started working on structured data and commons, I have to say I was totally frightened because I thought, oh, we are going to introduce a very big change to this project. And although, you know, I've always heard that the community has supported it quite for a long time and wanted this for a long time, it was still a scary thing. But throughout the 3 years that we've been working on the project for now, or a bit more than 2 years, I mean, collaboration with the community has been really fantastic. I really have to honestly say this. We've gotten very strong support from especially the administrators on Commons. People have continuously provided very good feedback, sometimes critical. We know we have some people who are not quite convinced about the value of structured data on Commons, but that is very valuable too. And we're also grateful for the people who speak up on that part. At this moment when we deploy, we have quite a few people already jumping on stuff, writing documentation as soon as new features are being deployed. We have people thinking about structuring licenses. We have people thinking about modeling stuff. We have people very strongly, you know, submitting like constant streams of feedback on every community consultation we do. And I really want to give a very big heartfelt thank you for everyone who puts time in this, who puts their passion in this. It's been a ride. It's still gonna be a ride, but it's been absolutely awesome, and I'm very happy to be part of this process. Thank you all.
And Marshall, do you have WikiLove?
Hello. Hey, I have WikiLove for the Czech Wikipedia community, who has been one of the communities piloting the help panel feature that helps new editors ask questions to the help desk. And I want to give them a shout out because their community has been answering questions on their wiki's help desk with a median response time of 13 minutes over the last few months. So there's 7 or 8 of them that are really active on the help desk and getting newcomers' responses really fast, and that helps them continue their edits and hopefully be retained on the wiki. So thank you.
Hi, I wanted to give lots of WikiLove to the Turkey user group and also to M&A for their fantastic work on the recent social media campaign to lift the block of Wikipedia in Turkey. And also for keeping us updated on local developments and news. That's been really helpful. And also to the affiliates who mobilized around that social media campaign as well. Thank you so much.
I wanted to send some WikiLove to Wikimedia Czech again, this time for the hackathon, for organizing the hackathon and to support us within the foundation. This was one of the best organized hackathons that I've attended, and I've attended quite a number already. So thanks again.
Following on from that, I'd like to voice Lucas Werkmeister's, but also my own heartfelt thanks to everyone that came to the hackathon and made it such a successful experience. The organizers did a great job, but also all the participants made it a wonderful experience. So thank you.
We just wanted to share much WikiLove for Sati and Katie, who have been wonderful colleagues over many years. I have been moping around the office all day, making very sad noises. But yeah, thank you.
I want to say thank you to Sati, who's here. Yay! I hadn't gotten a chance to work with Sati until this year when we worked on strategy together, and it was a delight. And I was finally able to see all the joy that people get from working with her, and I was really happy to do that. Katie has been an amazing mentor. I feel like she's always calling me out on things and making me do stuff, so I would definitely miss her around here. So lots of WikiLove for both Sati and Katie.
Sorry, I'm gonna piggyback on this. Hi, Sati. So both Sati and Katie they've been the 2 people who introduced me to the movement. So before I start like cracking up, either in laughter or in tears, just want to say thank you to you both. Yeah, you're both great. And Katie is not here. She's great, wherever she is.
I wanted to offer some wiki love to the CR team, especially you, Elena, who was up here a moment ago. We've done a 4-month consultation on the brand proposal. It's had lots of discussion in lots of places. It's wrapping up right now. And the reason it went so well was because of Kim and Elena being great partners with us on that. So thanks to CR and to Kim and Elena.
Oh putain, voilà qui paraît d'arranger.
Florence, I think you're
Ouais,
unmuted.
apparemment j'ai mon micro. Why? Why did you leave me the microphone? Hello, Happy. Okay, mute me.
Would anyone else like to share wiki love, either online or in person? Well, with that, I think that wraps it up for the activities meeting this month. We will see you all next month. Thank you.